How does ADHD affect mood, and how do you regulate emotions when you have ADHD? I'm Sarah Greenberg, a Harvard-educated psychotherapist and behavioral health leader with 20 years of experience. I also lead our team of 90 experts and researchers here at Understood. Today, I'll be answering some of the internet's biggest questions on ADHD and mood. Does ADHD affect your mood? It sure does. ADHD impacts a broad set of skills known as executive function. This is like the air traffic controller for your mind. It tells your brain when to start certain things, when to stop certain things, how to plan the different pieces moving, how to organize. These things are all really hard for the ADHD brain. Part of that is something that we don't talk about enough: emotions. Emotional regulation is one of the executive functions. It's about noticing your feelings, understanding the feelings, and having helpful ways to move through those feelings. Let's say I am late to an interview and I can't find my keys. Well, I'm going to have some feelings about that. I might feel frustrated, angry. I'm probably going to have that loud self-critic. On the other hand, you might see your best friend after not seeing them for a long time, and you'll feel the full experience of that excitement. So there's positive things about the sensitivity to emotions as well. Emotional regulation might be harder for someone with ADHD, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Emotional regulation is a learnable skill. Learning how to identify feelings, learning helpful strategies to move through. Some of those strategies can be using things like your thoughts or your behaviors to help manage your mood. Does ADHD cause mood swings? Mood swings are very common for the ADHD brain. This is part of that going from 0 to 60 so quickly. It might feel like sunny skies, then all of a sudden there's a storm. It might feel like a storm, then all of a sudden you snap out of it. And so what you can do is when you feel like something's coming all of a sudden, think back. When was the first sign of this? You can backtrack a little bit and start to practice that self-awareness of your emotional state so it doesn't feel quite so sudden. Everyone has mood changes, but ADHD can make it feel like those emotions are coming in faster and lingering longer. Why do some people with ADHD get angry so quickly? This is an issue with emotional regulation. For the ADHD brain, it's often way harder to identify feelings so they feel like they come on all of a sudden, and it can be much harder to manage those feelings and move through them. There can be lots of triggers for anger. 3 that I commonly hear in my practice are getting distracted, someone taking you out of a hyperfocus or a deep state of focus, feeling like you're holding it together all day, and then at the end of the day, one little thing happens and it just feels like this onset of rage. A 3rd one is feeling judged or rejected. That wounding can come out as anger. Here's the thing. We tend to judge anger pretty harshly in ourselves. It's much easier to manage when we can see it like any other feeling. Identify it, notice it, label it, then work with it like you would any other emotion. Anger in and of itself is not dangerous or harmful. It's really about what we do with the anger. Label it, then you get that opening to work with it. Why do I crash after hyperfocus? First, let's start with defining hyperfocus. Hyperfocus is this strong setting in the ADHD brain where you get into this gear and for minutes or for hours, it's like the only thing that exists is that thing you're doing. Whatever it is, you're deeply, deeply involved. This is why attention deficit is a misnomer. It feeds one of the biggest myths about ADHD, that ADHD is a lack of attention. It's not about lacking any attention. It's about attentional control. You don't always get to decide when hyperfocus hits and when distraction is abundant. You might find yourself with this just burst of hyperfocus. And again, maybe it lasts for hours and maybe afterwards you crash. First, it's normal. Everybody crashes after periods of major exertion. This is something people plan for, athletes plan for it. But again, hyperfocus, you don't know when it's going to hit, so you're not necessarily planning for it. So sometimes the hyperfocus feels like a surprise, and sometimes the crash feels like a surprise. One tip I have for this is extremely practical, and it actually comes from 12-step, which is the acronym HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. You notice yourself crashing, ask yourself, am I hungry? You might not have eaten for 7 hours. Am I angry? I might be frustrated because I missed all of these other things while I was hyper-focusing. L stands for lonely. You might not have had any social connection for the last 7 hours. T stands for tired. Well, you might be exhausted after exerting that much energy. So once you have that acronym in your head, it's really easy to remember. You can quickly assess what you need, and that makes you able to hopefully meet what you need. How do you regulate emotions when you have ADHD? There's 3 main paths to shift emotions. 1, shift the feeling itself. This can be really tricky because what happens when you try to change, move, or even squelch a feeling? It gets bigger. The second path is shift your thoughts. This can be extremely effective, but it can take time to change the habit patterns of the mind. The fastest path to shifting mood is through behavior. Have a menu of quick actions you can take. Text a friend, make a $5 donation, do 5 jumping jacks, take a 5-minute walk, listen to your favorite podcast. These are all actions that can disrupt the cycle and help you get unstuck. Do people with ADHD feel emotions more intensely? Often, yes. People with ADHD do feel emotions more intensely. This is because they can come on fast, they can come on strong, and once they arrive, they can just last a little longer. Emotions have a shape to them. They come on, they peak, and they shift. For the ADHD brain, one can often get stuck in that emotion. They come on, it feels really sudden, they plateau, and then eventually come down. By increasing emotional awareness, you're more likely to notice the onset of the emotion, so it doesn't feel like it's just coming fast and out of nowhere. And then you can continue to learn skills to move through that plateau and move through the emotion rather than getting stuck in it. By the way, how has ADHD affected your mood? Let us know in the comments below. Can ADHD make it hard to understand your own emotions? Definitely. For the ADHD brain, with challenges with emotional regulation, it can be really hard to notice those emotions coming on, to be aware of what that emotion even is, to label it, and to accept it and move through it. So you might hear yourself saying something like, why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't feel this way. My friend doesn't feel this way. My partner doesn't feel this way. Why can't I be more like them? The very first thing that can help is just labeling it. They say name it to tame it. It's kind of a silly phrase, but it actually works. When you name the emotion, this is called labeling. That is that first door opening to start moving through it and working with it. Can ADHD medication make your mood worse or better? The answer is yes. ADHD medication can make your mood worse or better. Please note, I am not a medical doctor, so I'm going to keep this high level. Please talk to your doctor for any in-depth medication discussions. ADHD meds is not a frontline treatment for mood. It's not a common treatment to address a mood disorder such as depression or bipolar. However, by treating the symptoms of ADHD, often people do find more stability in their moods. For example, ADHD meds can help with things like organization. When you find your life is more organized, you feel a greater sense of capacity to manage moods. Maybe you feel less exhausted, so you just don't feel as many shifts in those moods. On the other hand, some of the side effects of ADHD meds are related to mood. Now, this doesn't mean everyone's going to have side effects from ADHD meds. Many people don't, but some of the known ones to watch out for include irritability, anxiety, or a sense of dullness or flatness. If you're experiencing these things or any other concerning side effects, please talk to your doctor. How do hormones affect ADHD symptoms? We know a lot more than we ever have about how hormones impact women and girls and ADHD. When estrogen goes down, ADHD symptoms go up. The premenstrual period, right before getting your period, maybe 5 to 7 days before, is a time when estrogen dips to its lowest levels of the cycle. This is the time when many people feel their ADHD symptoms increase. Things like organization's just harder. Sleep might be harder because it's harder to kind of wind down. There might be mood shifts with emotional regulation. This is a good time to either talk to your provider about shifts in medication or physical needs, or consider up-leveling the skills. That toolbox that once worked is probably still pretty useful, but maybe you need to add more tools to it. One tool I absolutely recommend for this time is self-compassion. And essentially that means recognizing that you're not alone and talking to yourself as you would a best friend. Often we talk to ourselves like we wouldn't talk even to our worst enemy. So being a little kinder to yourself can make this phase a lot easier. Can untreated ADHD lead to mood disorders? Untreated ADHD doesn't necessarily cause mood disorders, but in general, ADHD and mood disorders tend to hang together. Let's take, for example, depression. It's very common to have both ADHD and depression. It's also common, particularly for women, to have undiagnosed ADHD that has been labeled as depression because some of the symptoms can sort of look the same. But no, I wouldn't say untreated ADHD would cause a mood disorder. Often someone can have both ADHD and a mood disorder, and it's important to understand and treat both within the context of you as a whole person. Do vitamins or supplements help with ADHD mood swings? I'm not aware of any evidence that shows significant long-term change from vitamins and supplements, specifically not directly targeting mood swings. Here is what I am extremely aware of. The incredible amount of marketing of these solutions that you can buy online for the ADHD brain to help with all kinds of symptoms, from focus to sleep to brain fog to mood. The ADHD brain loves a quick win. We're interest motivated. We want that quick dopamine hit. We want that quick solve. That can be really helpful in certain circumstances. It's not as helpful when trying to protect ourselves from this kind of marketing. What I recommend is when you see these big claims, that is when I would be most keen to bring a really critical eye. If any of this hit home today, you are not alone and you do not have to stay stuck. I helped create a free self-guided activity called ADHD Unstuck for moments like this. It was designed by women with ADHD for women with ADHD to help boost your mood and get you feeling more like yourself in only 10 minutes. Give it a try today by heading to the link in the description.